append setting up GGEZ. And we'll create a new marker here for let's pulling in game data. All right, so pulling in game data, what this means for us is I want to take this JSON file and like bring it into a struct inside of our application so we can read from it and deal with it. So there's a library for us to use. If we come to crates.io called, if we just search for JSON, JSON. One of the most popular crates around. It's still actively updated. I don't need you open. It is one of the few crates that are 1.0 actual released. And it like tells us exactly how to do this. So we're gonna do this together because it's been a while since I've used JSON. So it's first saying, hey, bring in JSON. So let's come back to here. Also, before I update our code for this, I do want to try to follow with these videos in Git. So that way, if you're like following along, you can look at my commits. So we're going to learning game design patterns, stage these changes. This all looks fine. I'm gonna do everything except the JSON file, and I got the basic window up. And I'll go ahead and push that. If you want to go ahead and look at this code, I have it under Bang repo, and you can see it there. All right, back to here. We want to pull in JSON. I think that's what it was called. Yeah, JSON. I can lock this to a specific version, but if I just do this, then I'm saying, okay, I'm okay with any patches that come out, recompile with that, but I want the 1.0, don't like do the minor version. Whereas with GGEZ, I'm locked to 0.5.1. It's very similar to package.json in that regard. Okay, so what's next? All right, so it's describing what JSON is. Any valid JSON data can be manipulated in the following recursive enum representation. The data structure is JSON value. So this is something that they provide for us. Matrix, you only know Python and want to learn a second programming language. What would I suggest? You want to be a desktop application development. So if you only know Python and you want to do desktop application development, do you want cross-platform or do you want to target like a specific one? Like Mac only, Linux only, Windows only? Do you care about one or not the other? Okay, so we're going to do use JSON, bring in result and value. Cross-platform. So okay, next question. For fun or business? Like, is this going to be like an actual like sellable product, or like you want other people to use it, or are you just learning project? Just learning. So I guess like at that point in time, it depends upon what type of language you want to go for. JavaScript with, what is it called? Electron is super, super, super popular. You can build Electron and it runs everywhere, including Linux. Like VS Code, Electron app. Same app, works Windows, Linux, and Mac. Java is like super popular. It's getting less popular over time because people are just like done with having like have the Java runtime sometimes and like having to update constantly. But that's another option. Rust is not the super best for these type of desktop applications yet, but that's because it's a brand new language and there's still like the libraries and hooking into all the things is still happening. So I guess like my suggestion would probably be Electron and JavaScript or TypeScript. So here's this data that we're going to come in. So we're going to have to load it in from a file. Parse the string of data into asserted JSON value. And then we can access parts of the data by indexing with square brackets. Okay, so that allows us to like get in to these. So I can suppose the first thing we need to do is grab this data and put it into a string. So let's come into main here. I want to probably hand, like when I create the new game state, hand all of this like data in and maybe create like a game data struct and then add that in there. Maybe even I want to have like a game struct. So let's do like game data here. And all of this game data stuff will happen in here. Thanks for the help, great content. Oh, thank you, Matrix. I hope that it's helpful for all of you. I'm really hoping that Rust takes off because it's my favorite language to use right now. I can't use it in work because I'm a web dev at work. And like, I hesitate to bring in a language that only I would know. That would not be the best thing to do to my team. But if I can get it to be like so much more popular, then it'll be easier to hire Rust devs who also know web dev. FP Gaguru? FPGA Guru? Redeemed toggle music. All right, let's do that. Do you have a preference for music? We're on synthwave right now. Let's go to EDM. You have to get them all to use WASM. It'll be fine. Yeah. All right. So same thing here. We're going to create a pub struct. Game data. Now, right off the bat, this is not going to be giving us the proper auto completion or error handling or anything else. Inside of library, I have to tell them that I want to use this module. So this is the first of the module system that we have to deal with. So I'm going to say I want a pub mod game data. And then I can even use game data like that. Now it's yelling at me that I'm not actually using that, but that's, that'll come in a little bit. But now I can actually get our proper auto completion here. So with game data, we know we're gonna have all of these things that we want to like store in here. So that's gonna be fun to store, but gotta do what we gotta do. It's typed language fun here. If I want to like just store the raw struct, like maybe I want to have an impl for this. And I want a pub function load, it's like load from file. You may notice that I am using a lot of underscores here. Snake case, as what it's called. That is the Rust standard. Okay, so load from file. I don't bring in self and that makes it a static method. You bring in self, and it makes it a method you need with dot. So that's the difference between needing colon or dot. Okay, so if I call this, let's say that I just, I'll do a print line. This bang is called a macro. So this is a method, like a function created by the Rust team, by the Rust language, that's just available everywhere. It's sort of like console log, or print if you're in Python. And I can just throw like text in here. So I can say loading game data from, let's say I want to pull in the file name here. So file name, I have to give it like what the type is. And I can say that this is a str, like a reference to a string. And file name there. So for string building here with this curly brackets, that's the contents of this one. If I want like a second thing in here, I can do another one there, and then I do like comma and a second variable name. All right, so then in game data in main, I'm thinking we're gonna want to use this. So use GGEZ runner. Actually, I can pull this straight from here. Game data, like that. Oh, struct game data is private. So you're not private. You're public, but I need to, where is it? I need to pub use this, I think, to basically forward it on and make it available outside of us. So here that is. It's now yelling at me that I'm not using this. Let's go ahead and write here, and we'll just say let game data equals game data load from file, and then the file name. So the file name is going to be game data.json and semicolon. And I mean, it's not running. Also, it's saying, look, you're not, this isn't actually doing anything. Let's go ahead. I'm not gonna set that into a variable yet. Obviously, I'll need to come back and deal with that later. If I run this, here's that loading game data from game data.json. Perfect. So I need to actually pull that from the file system. I can leave that in there, that's fine. Okay, so I think, if I remember correctly, fs, so use standard fs read the contents of a file into bytes, read to string. Read the entire contents of a file into a string. That's what I want. So I want read to string. And I can now use this here. So how does it work? Read to string, it takes in a path, and it returns an IO result with the string. Okay, so we can deal with that. And a result, if you remember, is okay or an error. Errors. This function will return an error if path does not already exist. Other errors may also be returned according to open options open. That's great. Thank you for letting me know what those other errors could be. And here's an example. Read to string address.text dot parse. Interesting. Okay, so dot parse. Oh, I think that parse is like turning into a number. I don't think we need to do that. I think we just need to do read to string, and that returns a number. Okay, so let's do this. Let raw like game data string. You really need to do this very often with Rust because it can actually, Rust Analyzer will tell me what type it is. Okay, so game data is equal to read to string, and let's hand it that file name. Now, if I do semicolon, it's going to say I'm not handling this error. So this is fun. Oh, it's saying like it's a result, like it's holding this result. Let's Vrizix, good morning. Parse uses from JSON to transform into correct inferred type. Wait, really? Parse uses that? Not just a number. I think I've only used it for numbers in the past. That's probably why. Wait, parse? Like, I don't need sorted JSON to parse JSON? If that's true, that's really cool. Oh no, don't be sorry. Don't worry about that. Wait, so are you saying yes, I don't need sorted JSON? Because if that's true, I will be happy, happy, happy. Okay, so I want to handle this result. So there's this entire idea about error handling. It's still pretty new in Rust. In fact, there's like big changes coming to errors coming up in the future. One problem is that I have this entire game result, which like gives me like potential game errors that's going to be used somewhere else. And what if I want like my own custom errors? And it's kind of like a little bit of a type thing. So I'm going to create my own custom errors here. Create errors.rs. I'm going to create, let's go ahead and in our main library, pub mod. I guess in this case, I don't really need the pub for the mod. I'm going to do pub mod errors, and then I'm going to do pub use errors. And I guess I need to like give it the custom error before I do that. So let's go back in here. This is going to be pub enum custom error. So enums, if you're not like, if you're just JavaScript and you haven't like used any other typed heavy language before, you probably haven't even heard of enums, or maybe you've heard of enums and don't know what they are. An enum is a type, but it can be only one of these types that I'm going to be putting in here. So for example, what we see coming into game data here is this result and this error. And if we look at it, what's the error that it gives me? I will actually yell at me. It'll also turn in an error if it encounters while reading an error of a kind other than error kind interrupted. Like, so like there's many different types of errors here, apparently. So we see like standard error, error plus static, whatever. I'm not gonna deal with that right now. We can go look at the actual, let's go look at the documentation, see exactly what error it's gonna return. So documentation for Rust. Let's see, we need to go to rustling.org, go to learn, go to the standard library. And what is this? This is fs read to string, and we see, okay, it's gonna, a result string And here's that error that we saw. What type of error are you going to give us? So one fun thing that I've learned that I can do is just use the type system to tell me what error I need to hold in here. So if I like have this custom error and I don't know what to put in here, let's just say like error reading, like reading file. Let's come into our main library. Let's see, where is it? Game data.js. Let's tell this that I want to return a result. I want to return this JSON file. So I probably want to return a game data. And the error for this, let's just say that it's a string. Just gonna say, hey, you're a type string. Now it's yelling at me, I'm not doing that. So I'm going to question mark this. And okay, game data, that. Now it's gonna yell at me and saying, hey, it couldn't convert the error to string. And here it is. Here's the exact error that I need. Standard IO error. There we go. Copy that. Come back to my errors. There we go. Standard IO error. Are you unhappy with this? I can't do that in here, can I? Come on, let me. Expected comma. I don't think it likes me to do the double colons like this, so I have to bring in. Let's see. Use standard IO error. That's like less awesome. I think I can do this as IO error. I'm gonna do that, IO error. There, so I'm gonna follow this, like forward this on and throw in like this enum. This enum custom error can be one of the things that are in here at a time. It can't be multiple. So it's not like an object or an array. All right, so it's sort of like a wrapper type. All right, so then custom error, bring into the library, this pub use custom error. Now inside of game data RS, I want to grab that error out. So I'm going to use, I need to go up one, which is using super. And then I can get custom error. And here I'm going to say that my string is actually a custom error. And that should make, couldn't convert the error to errors custom error. Oh no, it couldn't convert it. The trait standard convert from standard IO error is not implemented for errors custom error. Okay, I thought that would let me use that, but I guess not. I was hoping that I could, I can like throw that in there. Standard convert from standard IO error is not implemented for. So it implicitly performs a conversion of the error using the from trait. Yeah. I was really hoping that I could do that here and have it like autocomplete. I can swear I've done something like this before, but it's been a while, so I may have forgotten exactly how to use like an error trait like this. Also, you're not claiming you're being used, which might be the problem. Because I wonder if it is not actually seeing custom error the way that I'm thinking it is. But okay, let's come back into here. So standard IO error is what I see. Now if I run this, I might get a little bit more information from this, sometimes from like the compiler itself. In this case, it doesn't look like it. It's a pain. There's a few crates adding macro derives to add an implicit from error, so that works. Can I add a drive from this? I thought I could just do that, but maybe I can't. If you want to avoid dependency, just implement the from. I could do that, or in this case, it's easy enough for just do. Let's do that match here. So we're not going to use the semicolon. Equals match on here. If it's okay, we're going to get the string. We're going to get the file. So this is going to be like the raw data. So the raw string, and we're going to return the raw string. If it's the error, we're going to get this special error. And I want to probably, like, I want to handle this in some way. Let's go ahead and return this custom error that like stores this. And so I think whatever, let's see, we're going to return an error, custom error, and then colon IO error. Semicolon U now. Okay, so that makes you happy. Now you're saying unused variable error. So there's this standard IO error that is like being passed in. What I can do is store that inside of here. So I can have an IO error. Let's go ahead and I don't even need you anymore. I'm going to use standard IO error. And IO error, I want you to store inside of here. This standard IO error. Okay. Back to game data, error. So we're going to return this IO error, parentheses, error. So store that inside. Now this is going to bubble up and like send upwards. Our custom error, we're going to store the error in so we don't lose it. It's going to be in this parentheses. That's not a function. It's a tuple. It's another data type that we have, another data structure. And we're handling it. Now, we're not going to like deal with it right now. We're going to deal with that up in main. And that's like a pattern that you'll see with a lot of REST programs is deal with as many errors in main as possible. So that way they all happen in one place and bubble them up all the way up. Okay, so I will deal with that up there in main later. Here we have our game data. It's now a string. I can, I believe, just print this out. So there's a debug macro. I can just do game data in here, and we'll just take a look to see what we got. We have a bunch of warnings. We can work on them a little bit right now. All right, so we're not using these. Let's go ahead and get rid of them. All right, unused standard result that must be used, even though it's a warning. So here's my game data load from file. I'm in main here, so I can't use the question mark for this. I'm not returning anything. So this is where a match is a really good idea. So let's do a match. I don't have to return from a match. You'll notice that I'm just gonna run match on this. If we get an okay, it's kind of like nothing. In fact, like, it doesn't really matter. So I'm just gonna ignore that. And we're gonna look at error. We're gonna get the error, which is a type custom error. And here we need to like just figure out what this is. If we get this error, we probably want to panic. So I'm just gonna panic and pass in the error. Now, this is gonna yell at me and say, hey, you haven't, you're not covering all the patterns. And this is where the safety of Rust comes in. Rust is saying, hey, you can't do that. What if it's okay? We'll crash if it's okay. You need to handle that. And I can say like, well, okay, like, okay, fine. Okay, nothing is gonna happen here. So I'm not gonna get anything in. And I guess I'm just not gonna do anything. I think I can just do this. Semicolon that. And where are you? Let's see, mismatch types, I think underscore. Yeah, underscore is basically a catch-all into a variable. And that makes me happy. No errors here. Let's go ahead and run this. Here's all of our raw JSON. All right, we got it. We're able to actually see it. So this is perfect, excellent. So we're loading this up. I am going to, however, because I ran out of water and I've been talking a lot, so I'm gonna go get some more water, use the restroom, stretch my legs a little bit. I'm gonna go take a really quick break. So I'm gonna hand in to all right, I am back. Switch back to the main screen. Got myself something to drink. And where did we leave off? Okay, so last we left off here, we created, so we have our string that's printing out. We could ignore, like, you know, it's actually showing all of the, like, these keys, like the return values, like rn, and it's like, you know, return to the beginning of the line, new line. We can ignore that for right now. That just lets us know, hey, we're getting this game data in here. It's correctly happening, so that's really awesome. What I want to do next is get this into an actual JSON struct. So I want to store all of these things, like the individual things inside of here, into our game data. So let's go take a look at assert.json and figure out how we're going to do that. All right, so parsing JSON as strongly typed data structures. We know exactly what they are, so that's gonna be fine. We're gonna create our struct. We're gonna have our data. That's the JSON for this. Okay. So let person equals sort of JSON from string data. Ooh, okay. Not too hard looking. Let's do it. So first of all, we need to create our struct, and we need to do something called like derive, serialize, and deserialize from it, which is here. Derive is basically saying, hey, this struct, I want you to implement the method serialize and deserialize and just use the defaults. Like use the default methods, like figure it out, Rust. And if it can figure it out, it will do it, which is really nice. So let's use, let's use this one first. And then here, we're gonna derive, serialize, and deserialize. Okay, what are you upset about? Unresolved import Serde. Okay, so that's something I noticed too. We need to pull in not just Serde, but no, not just Serde JSON. We need to pull in Serde, don't we? Oh, it doesn't say that we need to do that here, but I think we do. Okay, so that makes that happy here. We're deriving you. What are you upset about? Cannot find derive macro serialize in this scope. Oh, come on, you're right. I mean, if I, no, did I spell it correctly? Okay, so apparently not. We need to set you up. Cannot find derive macro serialize inside of here. So I'm guessing that's a little bit, I don't know if this is a real error or if it's something else going on. Okay, but let's continue on. Actually, let me try compiling it, see what we get in here. Okay, so it is a real error. Let's see. There's a Serde derive, you think? Ooh, okay, so it's not showing that here. Le Clown Foo, you need to enable feature derive for Serde in cargo.toml. What? Okay. Did they actually say that here and I just missed it? The necessary setup for using Serde's derives macro is explained on using derive page of the Serde site. So if you come here, so add Serde version features equals derive. There it is. So this is an alternate, slightly different entry into cargo.toml. Like that, Serde equals version 1.0, and that's fine. Features derive. So if I save that, back to here, it's running cargo check. There we go. It updated. Got it. Thank you, Le Clown Foo. Le Clown Foo. Okay, so if we got that now, it's time for us to implement game.json, the game.data.json into all of this. Super fun. Let's go ahead, pull this over. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do this. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them, but I'll probably just do this in silence for right now because this is the fun part. Do I have to do it in the same? I can't remember. I don't remember what it does with capitalizations. I think I might have to switch these to like with underscores too, but I don't know. Let's try it. Okay, so this is gonna be interesting. So player is gonna be another struct here. If you don't use snake case, it usually just complains. Shouldn't stop it from building. Okay, thank you, like Clown Flew. I didn't know if it was gonna auto convert this to snake case or if I'm gonna need to change the JSON to use snake case. So if I want player here, I can't just do like that. That doesn't work. Or does it? Like, can I actually do this would be like an anonymous struct here. I wonder if I can. Can I do that? Nope, no anonymous structs here. I'm gonna have to create a special struct for this. So I can just straight up do that in here. I could just do this, and that's fine. We might want to break this out into different files. I don't know. Let's try just having a player data. So player data. So now here, player, you're going to be player data. Okay, types. It's gonna be interesting. Types is clearly going to be essentially this is gonna be an enum, but I don't know if we're going to be able to properly like store this. I might need to put game data in as like just this object first, and then convert it to an enum later. Because I don't know if I'm going to be able to do something like I bet it's not going to be able to figure this out. I wonder if I can create like my own drive for it. So I think I'm going to have to do a struct I'm not going to do commands toggle. Oh no, I have to store it in here. We're going to remove it because I'm not going to implement the level editor in the Rust version. And then we're going to have level. Okay, so a vector. A vector is the closest analogy to JavaScript is an array. However, there's also an array type. So it's a little bit of maybe a little bit misleading by just calling it like very similar to an array. It's basically an array that has all the friendly aspects of JavaScript arrays. It grows automatically, it shrinks automatically, it gives you all those nice methods on it, and arrays are not that. They're much more like, ooh, you're advanced arrays. That being said, these arrays, I can only put one type in them. So for example, it's going to be an array of strings. Okay, what are you all upset about? So yeah, it's now sounding like, hey, you created these other structs. The serialize and deserialize needs to be added in for them too. All right, so now it's yelling at me because I'm not actually returning a game data that has all these things in it. All right, but I've got that going, so we're good there. Okay, so we're gonna do serde JSON from stir and pass it in the data. Okay, and then we have to give it like what the type is. All right, so we have our game data here. Let's now create our game data from this. So let this is going to be of type game data equals. This is one of the few times that we need to like give it the specific type that it's going to be, because it's not going to figure out on its own. Then serde underscore JSON from string, and then a reference to this game data. Now, what do you return? Expected struct game data found enum standard result. Okay, so it's telling me like, hey, you're returning a result. That's not good. Let's go ahead and question mark that. And now I'll say, hey, from serde JSON error is the next error. All right, let's come into errors. Load. That is our next error. Oh, right, we have to do that entire match thing. Equals. So we're gonna get the essentially JSON. We're gonna return that JSON back. If we get an error, we're gonna get the error. Return error. Like that. Okay, so now we have our game data, which is type game data. Can I debug game data? I can't. No, wait, I can't. Game data doesn't implement standard format debug to sort of print this out. Well, the easiest way to get that in there is just do this, debug. Now by doing that, it's gonna say, hey, you need to implement that for all these too. No problem. And we need to return OK and this game data. Game data, player data doesn't implement standard format debug. Wait, didn't I? Oh, I missed it here. Use a moved value game data. Okay, so I can't believe we've made it this far before we got this this error. This is a very classic Rust, like you run into this all the time. Use a moved value. So the protections that Rust provides us is basically saying, look, we don't do garbage collection, but also at the same time, we're gonna make sure that only one thing can own something at a time. I run this debug macro, essentially a function, and I pass it game data. I don't get anything back, meaning that debug has now taken ownership of game data. It owns it. As far as the compiler is concerned, debug may be destroying game data. It can't guarantee that it's still gonna exist by the time this line happens. So in order to make this work, I'm going to borrow it by just passing a reference to game data. And that way we, as in load from file, still owns game data and can pass that in here. And that's it, no more errors. Let's go ahead and run this and see what that entire thing looks like. Error, okay, so see what we got here. Loading game data from game data, so it went into there. Thread main panicked at box any, so line 12. So line 12 of main. Here's where it errored out on my custom error. So that's fun. And it says that I can run rust backtrace 1 to get a better one. So I think I can do, I think I just do export Oh, I don't know how to do that in Windows, actually. I don't know how to do environment variables in Windows. I don't think I can just do this. Yeah, okay, that's gonna be interesting. I would need to switch over to Lin. It's been forever since I've done this in Windows, like way forever. So I don't know how to create those. If any of you know how to create environment variables in Windows, let me know. Otherwise, we need to figure out what's going on here. So we have in our game data, we know that it's going to be this error that's causing this to be a problem. So before this return happens, let's go ahead and multi-line this with a bracket. And I'm going to print line error loading, what is this? Error loading game data. Nope. You. Okay, error loading game data, missing field, head size at line 17, column 3. So here's head size. And line 17, column 3. So, well, neither of us have that. In player, I do have a head size here. It's looking for the key to match in snake case though. Oh, I was afraid of that. So let's come in here and change all these to snake case. I was worried about that. I'm surprised that that was the first thing that came into, but I guess, let's see. Oh, let's try this again. There we go. So this runs. And if we take a look, here's our debug, which is the full object printed out for us. So it's perfect. We've got it all in here. Notice also that it properly converted these things over to F32s. I didn't need to. I need to go in here and say like, hey, you're 400.0. It figured that out for us, which is really nice. All right, so we've got the data loaded in. Excellent. Now, it would be really nice if I could convert some of these things into enums. For example, our player is fine as it is with the player data, but the types and the states, and even like the level, it would just be nice if they were enums instead of like a vector of strings. So we have like this maybe like a raw game data would be good for like initially setting it up. Also, I forgot to tell you, Le Clown Flute, thank you so much for that hint to go to lowercase, or sorry, to snake case. That definitely was super helpful. All right, so let's, before like I run, like we're gonna load from file, and that's gonna create our game data. And then I want like, maybe this is like the raw game data, and then I want to return like the full thing. So if I do load from file, and that gives us, let's say the raw game data. So let's change this over and do raw game data there. So impl on raw game data and raw game data. What I really want to do is return this raw game data and then convert this into like our actual game data, like what we really want it to be. And we could just do this in here, or we can make something else like convert that into like the actual game data. I don't know if like what the best thing to do is. I'm thinking actually like for raw. So we have this struct raw game data. I'm actually almost thinking that I want to move this function outside of the implementation of this, because I'm not sure we really need it. Instead, we're gonna just like have this out here. Let's not implement you. We're just gonna have a public function load from file that returns this result. We have the raw game data, and I'm thinking we want to then have a game data, like the actual game data, and a custom error. But let's start with this first and do this refactor really quickly. So I don't need this print line. Let's name this raw game data. Okay, so we're gonna have our raw game data. It comes into game data here, and we return an okay. Let's see, we don't need to debug this, and we're gonna return this okay game data. And let's say also, I do need to make this pub right now for what I'm gonna do with it. And I may even need to make these pub. I can't remember off the top of my head. So back to main here. We have load from file and raw game data. I'm actually going to not in the main library. I'm not going to use this yet. I'm just going to expose it with a pub mod. And in main, what is that? That is just the game data, like that. So in here, we're going to do, okay, so here's game data load from file. So we're actually going to do game data load from file. And I'm going to do let our game data equals to this. We're going to take in and return it right there. And now we have this raw game data. Okay, perfect. So I have it right here, and I can, when I'm creating the new state, we can just store that in here. So the idea is that I want some kind of like actual game data, but I want it to have like the full everything that we have. So before I do that, let's create the game data we really care about. So like we have the raw game data, but that has like these are strings, as our types and states and levels are of strings. I want them to be enums. So I want to recreate this. That's like not raw. Out of curiosity, if I don't make you pub, are you happy? No, okay, so it's not happy. This actually says, look, it must be public. Let's create another one here. And this one we're going to call game data. It's going to be very similar to this. But the big difference is my player data will be the same, but types, I want these to switch over. I'm gonna make you, let's actually just put it here. Oh, no, not like that. Your raw types data and raw states data. Okay, how about this? There. Raw types data, raw strings data. Now we want a types data and strings data, and I also want to move you from like actual just like the level, whatever the level is. So we're missing these three types. So let's go ahead and add these in. So we need types data, states data, and level. So here we're going to do an enum of types data, and we could probably just call this types. Enum level. What was the other one? States. And then we remove the data off of these. And there we go. Now it's just telling us, hey, we're not using this thing. So that's obviously a problem. Let's go ahead, and in here, when we return, we don't want to return a raw game data. We want to return a game data. So game data starts us off by saying, okay, we have this raw game data here. We're getting that in. Now we want to do a little bit of massaging and basically convert this raw game data into game data. And all that really means is for the player, no, not for the player, for the types, the states, and the level, convert these to enums. So we can start with the types. And what I'm thinking here is we can do an impl for raw game data. And we can have a, I don't know if I want to do a from with this, or if I just want to like convert. So maybe like we'll call this like new game data. We're not going to take anything in. Instead, we're going to take in just a self. In fact, I'm not going to use a reference here. I'm going to consume self. So at the very end, we're going to return a game data as opposed to a raw game data. So at the end of this block, it's actually going to unload this from memory. So when we say that Rust doesn't have a garbage collector, what we really mean is that garbage is collected as soon as the block is done and over with. So, well, game data is going to be very similar to this. So let's go ahead and start with that. So we're going to turn game data. So cell size is going to be So this is interesting. Gravity force. I can now do some interesting like changes here. I can actually make our gravity force not be an F32. I can update this to be maybe a full vector or a point, so that way we can like do our updates properly. So do I want to do that? I don't know. It's something I'll have to think about. Okay, and now we've reached our types, our states, and our level. So for our types, what I want to do is I just have strings right here. I essentially want to go through these and convert them to an enums. Can I like even, how do I dynamically create an enum? I'm trying to like even think of how that works. Let's see, how do I dynamically create an enum? I don't think I can. So in this case, I want to acknowledge that we're taking these in, or just go ahead and remove it from the JSON and not deal with it. It might be better to just remove this from the JSON, which won't make it exactly the same JSON that we have in the JavaScript version. Which is a little bit sad, but I think that that's the best way to do it here. Because this is defining what the enums are. Unless there's a macro that allows me to create that. but I haven't learned macros yet. That might be really interesting to go into, like look into that. So I'm gonna note that down for myself. So maybe in the future we'll do like a stream where I just like look into this and then create like a tutorial on like how to dynamically create an enum. That would be really cool. So look. But in that case, we know that with our types, we want player, floor, start, spike up, end, and space. Okay. Let's move this over to the right here. I'm going to remove you. Am I going to remove you yet? Yeah, I am. In fact, I'm going to move both of you here, which means that in this top data, states and types get to go away. The level stays the same, because I do need to pull this in from here. And so this level, yeah, types and states are going to go away, but we're going to replace them in here. So types, player, floor, okay, so space there, that gets rid of these types. And now I can store these types inside of here. Although in this case, I don't even need to store them in here, do I? Instead, what I want to do probably is move this types outside. Move the types and states out of here and put them into like their own files. So let's go ahead and create types.rs and a states.rs. And in the main library, before we forget, let's get them in here. So we're gonna mod types, mod states. All right, so that brings us with types, and then with states. What are the states that we can have? Essentially these. I'm not even going to bring in editing. We don't need that. So you go away now. Okay, that's happy. Ox for self. Hey, I got a problem with my autocomplete in VS Code with Rust. Oh no! Are you using RLS or Rust Analyzer? Does it just like need an update? Sometimes it happens to me where it just stops working and I need to come in and restart, either or both. So restart the Rust server, restarts RLS, and restart Rust Analyzer restarts, well, Rust Analyzer. You installed it, but nothing's working? Oh no. It just sort of automatically worked for me. I do have to make sure that the base like project is here. If there's like a folder before that, nothing will work. It won't figure that out. So if it's not one of those things, I guess I don't know what it could be. All right, so and then we have this enum level. Let's go ahead and bring this in also elsewhere too. Oh, levels up here. In the bottom bar, Rust finds your project. That is not the problem, but they only give me auto-completion options you already wrote, and not functions that you could use, and so on. Oh no. Did it give you the option when you first like load up the project to install the tools? I can't do that right now anymore because like once you have it in there, I don't think I can. Is there like RLS? I don't see anything in here for like reinstalling RLS behind the scenes. You did that and also manually? I don't know. I have not run into that myself. It's always just sort of like worked for me, which is really nice, but that really sucks that it's not working for you, and I don't know anything off the top of my head of like what to do for that. I suppose let's see. Let's see. You need functions for libraries that you're pulling in. Yeah, that's a really good question, like Clown. All right, so for this level, let's take a look at what the things that we have in here. All right, so we have a floor. We have starts. Actually, you know what? Level and types are the same thing. I don't need this at all. Go away. Let's take out level. And we don't need you at all. Types handles the level. But what this means here in our game data, let's go ahead and bring everything back over into a single thing. Okay, so you go away. So a level is going to be a vector of types. But of course it's saying like, hey, where are these states and types? So I need to use super, let's see, super states. Now in library, we're not publicly, so let's use pub use, let's see, types. You need to be pub. And you need to be pub. And so in here I can use super. In fact, I can use this other super that I have above. Okay, so then in here, we're gonna have, not in raw game data, but we're gonna have like states as states, level as types. All right, so we don't actually need to store the states, but we do need to store the vector of types here. So what I want to do is let types equals, so we have the vector, so self.level, it's a vector. I can now do some interesting things with it. I can map it and change each one to be this different thing. So let's do dot, I can't do a map, but I can do iter. And then I can map from that. I'm going to give it a callback function. That's what it's known in JavaScript, the lambda function in Python and so on. It's called a closure here. So we're going to get each like the map data. So this is going to be like the raw type. It's going to be a reference to a string, and then I'm going to return whatever this is here. So I actually want to match I want to match on this raw type. Just to make this a little bit cleaner, let's actually call a function. So we're going to do self dot convert raw type. Good morning, Chantilly. Happy Tuesday. We're going to pass it in the raw type. And then that, I think I need to then collect it together again. And then there we go. So it should yell at me saying like, hey, there's no convert raw type in here. So let's create a private function. This is going to take a reference to self. And it's also going to take in this raw type. So we can just look at the type here. And we have to give it the string because we're in a function. This is going to be a reference to a str. And we're going to return a types like that. Okay. Now it's just yelling at me that I'm not doing that. So for example, I could just, say, hey, I'm going to ignore the raw types. I'm going to return types. Everything's a floor now. And that makes you happy. It's now a types of, let's see, can you figure out what this is? I then put you in here. Level, this is actually a level, like that. And we can see it's a vec of types now. Perfect. So I don't want them all to be floors. We need to match these and figure out like what exactly they're going to be. And so that match is actually going to be really perfect here. So we're going to match on raw type. And we're going to see, okay, so if you're a floor, then I want to return types floor. If you are a start, and we can come into type. So we have player, floor, start, spike up, and space. These are the ones that I want to implement here. Let's go ahead and put this to the side. So let's do maybe player first. Then I have floor. Then we have start. Let's do spike up next. I can delete that. I think. Maybe. Well, that. And then unban. Unable to unban. Wait, okay. Remove ban on Chantilly. And Chantilly, if you send me a message again, I will remod you again. That's the only way I know how to delete those messages. So oh wait, no, you're still a mod. Okay, cool. Never mind. Okay, so spike. Oh, it's not spike. It's spike up, I think. It's spike up like this. All right, what's next? And then we have end. And finally, space. All right, so this is now going to convert these raw types over. Now we're going to have an array of enums, so it can actually be only one of these things. That way, if we do have something that's not one of these strings, so for example, let's actually just say that it's anything other than one of those. So I'll just do a I think a underscore for a catch-all. And I'm going to return an error. So let's get a new error here. And this is level, like unsupported. Like level, raw level error. So we're going to return. Now, if I return an error, then we're going to have to handle that here. And so this is going to have to be not types, but a result that has the types and the custom error. And I think I can just return, we can wrap all these in OK. Yeah, let's do this. Like that. And then this one is going to be the error, custom error. Just like that. Then up here, you're upset because it's the wrong type. So we question mark you. Can I not question mark in the middle of this? The question mark operator can only be used in a closure that returns result or option or another type that implements standard ops try. Oh, okay. So I can't actually do this. This function should return result or option to accept. But that's going to go into like each one of these, which is kind of not what I want. I can't remember if I can do that. Like extract the option for them all as part of this. There probably is a way. What I can do is instead of this okay here, so let's undo this. We can just panic and just say, hey, you know what? I'm panicking. I'm going to pass in a string, which is unsupported level type, like that. And then we're going to return the types. So back to happy with you. This is not the best pattern. So this is like a return, a crash to like the command line that's not in the main. So it might cause some problems. Hopefully it won't, but also hopefully I will be able to find what this problem is right like from there. Okay, so we have our level of vec types. We're storing this in our level. We have this new game data. We do have some errors here. So cannot find game data in the scope. So, right, this is the raw game data. Here's your raw game data, a game match from this. Right, you want this. Oh, load from file. We actually want this to be a game data. Actually, no, let's see. We have load from file. Where's this other thing? Oh, public load from file. Okay, I get it. We do want this to be a game data. I got lost in what I did. I did too many other things. Okay, I do want this to be a game data, but we don't have it yet. We have this raw game data, but in this raw game data, which implements this, we have this function convert to raw type. So let's go ahead and run that here. So then we're gonna do let raw let game data equals raw game data dot convert raw type, and we're gonna hand it the raw game data. In fact, I don't need anything at all. Just, is it convert raw type? Yeah. No, we want new game data. That's what we want. Like that. That will consume itself. It'll be dropped memory-wise right here. And now we have a game data and we return that. And so we have 22 warnings, but no errors. So for example, we're not using the game data yet. So let's go ahead and handle this in our main. So here's our game data. It's now a game data. So pretty cool that we're able to like load that from file. We're able to like break this out into different little areas. What I want to do is now hand this in to the game state when we create it. So let's go ahead and go into our main library here. When we create a new thing, we're going to take in the game data, which is a type. So let's use game data. And let's also store this in here. You're a type game data, and then game data like that. Okay. Now you're yelling at us that it takes one argument, but we're not passing it. So let's go ahead and add in the game data. And now it's just yelling at us that we're not using our states. We're not using our stuff properly. So this has been a lot of work to bring in that game data, but now it's available to us, and it's available to our main game state here. So that's really awesome. Okay, so what does this mean for our entire thing? Well, we haven't created our grid yet. We haven't created anything else, but we have converted our game data.json into a REST structure, and we have this in here. So that's actually pretty nice. Let's go ahead and what would be next for this? In fact, I think this has been long enough since our last. This has been long enough for like its own what is it? Its own marker. Like, when was the last marker? That was a long time ago. Pulling in game data. Yeah, exactly. So we have done that. So game data has been pulled in. So let's go ahead and add in a marker for